Greetings and bienvenue, people. It is I, Dark Symphony 777, with another FanFiction review. And keep that blooper reel for sure. This is a big episode. Back in episode 1, I was reviewing Yu-Gi-Oh! 1000 Year Door. I mentioned how I won't take suggestions until episode 10. That's because this story that I'm reviewing is called the Only a Girl Trilogy by Lance Storm. This was the first story I promised that I review. And that was years ago. It is a 3-part Starfox story. And the first and third story are adventure romance, and the second story is humor romance. As in every episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Spread the word around. And make sure to pause the video and click on the link in the description before you listen to the whole review. Now that's out of the way. Or am I forgetting something? Oh, no. This story might contain spoilers for Starfox Adventure and Starfox Command. You probably don't know what the latter one is, because not really liked. Anyway, how I'm going to review this, I'm going to take each section I review it and split it into 3 parts. Plot for the first story, plot for the second story, and plot for the third story. And etc., and then add up all the stories like that. So, the plot. The plot stars a boy named, like, Kinley. Or is it Kindly? I never really figured that out. It's either way. God, love that Mountain Dew. I don't own it. Or I do. I own that in the can. And he's nothing more than a simple, average boy who gets beat up a lot. Well, not average. Yeah, average. I can't really figure out how to describe it. And, well, he gets bullied a lot. He doesn't know why he gets bullied. All he knows is people hate him. People bully him. They swirly him. The whole 9 yards. And so on his 18th birthday, he gets a staff from his uncle that was made by Alexander the Great that somehow was passed down to his family. In the story, it explains that, oh, if you have the staff, you have to pass it down. You can sell the staff. Oh, I'll sell, sir, yes, Alexander, I need to create a staff that grants miracles. Sir, well, okay. I want a sword and a ring as well. Okay. What do we do with them? I want to keep one, and I give you and another guy the other. What happens if we want to get, I don't know, get rid of it? Give it to someone else. Just make sure, tell them, pass it down, pass it down, pass it down. That was funny, right? Sounded better in my head. Hello. And so, yeah, the staff creates miracles. And so, since he's bullied, he feels that he'll never get a girl and never fall in love. So, and he sees a copy of Starfox Adventures and notices Crystal and says, I wish Crystal was here. Oh well. Wish granted. He wakes up next to Crystal, and she proceeds to kick him right between the legs. Ouch. And so the plot kind of progresses from there, with Light wanting to bring Crystal back home, while them actually falling in love with each other. It's a really simple boy meets girl story. It's a unique take on that type of story. And kind of a twist on the whole insert. Instead of the author going into the game comes into the author's world. So it's like, well, the main character's world. I'm not saying Lance Storm is the main character. And so that's, I guess, while trying to stop a guy named Creek. This is more. I'll talk more about him later. And at the end, well, she decides to get married to him and try and bring her planet Serenia back into his world. And so the second story, the honeymoon story, takes place right after the events of the first story. It has Light and Crystal going on a honeymoon with two of Light's friends, Nat and Alex, deciding to get a quick rich scheme and try and rip Crystal's shirt off, so that way she has the whole knocker. So I can make money. Ooh, it's so hilarious. Ooh, but it's so cringeworthy. It's like, they get what they deserve. You get for getting a freaking pissed off lady trying to get her picture of her naked. And finally, the third story. The plot takes place 10 years after the first and second story. Light and Crystal are happily married. They have 2 kids, Dawn and Dusk. Well, Dusk, I'll get more into detail on him when we get to the character area. And so Crystal finally realizes her dream of bringing Serenia back into the real world, into their world, so that way they can establish sort of a cooperation. But that causes fracture in the relationship when her parents don't really like Light because of the simple fact he's commoner. He's a commoner. And then there's this whole creatures named the Void happening. The villain from the first story comes back. And Fox and the Starfox gang come join them, and that causes even more fractures. And I really like the plot. I like the third plot. The only thing I didn't like about it was the story is about 148,000 words long. And a plot like that, I honestly feel, and this is just honestly me, that it should have been, that the third story should have been a little bit longer, just to give time to breathe and everything. Because, for example, the subplot between Light, Crystal, and Fox with the whole phantom memories, because when Starfox come in, well, that is actually when Light brings Crystal in, it's before the events of Starfox Adventure, which means she doesn't go to Krazoa Palace, he doesn't get crept in the crystal, Fox is a fighter, they don't fall in love, they don't have a kid, and Crystal is just not around anymore. And so when Fox sees her, all these memories of this separate timeline that happens post-adventures, Assault, Command, I'm not talking about Zero, because Zero is just basically the first game done again. God, Nintendo, why are you so obsessed with just copying the first Star Fox game over and over and over again? But I digress. I like that quote. I wonder the reason why Clement likes that quote so much. It's a really useful quote to bring back on track. And so Fox is trying to use the power of the memories to try and sway Crystal away from Light, so that way they can fall in love and hopefully try and make him happy. And honestly, how it ended and how it progressed, it was good. There was so much more mileage out in that plot point. There was so much he could have done with that. He could have made it real. Honestly, he could have made it a story by itself. Just the whole Fox, Crystal, Light triangle. He could have made that a story on its own, and I wouldn't have complained one bit. I just really wish the story could have had like 20 to 30,000 words, and most of it could have been committed just to improving that subplot, just that one sole subplot. Because I honestly think he should have done more with it, or she. I don't know. With most writers, I always seem to say hello to the two women. Weird. But other than that, I can't really complain about the plot, because the plot's good. It's just that one little subplot I wish could have been done more with. And maybe could have had the rest of the words, like another 5,000 words, hold towards the end. Because it got too complex and and the plot towards the end of the third story kind of gave in on itself. But other than that, the plot is good. It has all the marks in the plot across all 3 stories. Has lots of build-up. Has lots of good pacing. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's really well done. And I'm okay with him not doing the whole Kalashnik thing. Well, he may do what he had. I just wish he had more to do with that love triangle plot point, because that had so much promise, and it just stopped abruptly at the end of the first arc. That it just could have been so much more. Character development. I really like the characters. When I first read this story, and I read the first chapter, and I read, oh, Light's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just an average guy who gets bullied. It reminded me so much of Bella Swan from Twilight. It was not even fun. It's like, no, not another Twilight. Kill it. Ah. Oh, but I am so happy that the author proved me so wrong. As I was reading the story, Light became more and more relatable. He became sort of like just the kid you see down, like at school, getting picked on for no discernible reason. I mean, and a lot of people, and I actually looked through the reviews of all three stories, that a lot of people actually really related to Light. They really liked the fact that he didn't come off as, like, too perfect, but he came off as, he doesn't know why he's being bullied. He doesn't know, he finds himself average, but average enough that he could theoretically pick up a girl. It's just nobody wants to be with him. He's good looking enough that people want to be with him, they just don't want to. He doesn't honestly know why he gets picked on. And it does get revealed in the third story that it's because the evil aura and the evil in some, because spoiler alert, he is an emissary for one of the bad guys. And that evil inheritance is kind of, I'm guessing, subconsciously causing people to hate him, so that way he can't access that power, or something like that. I'm guessing. I'm guessing with that. But he comes off a really relatable person. A lot of people nowadays, when they go to school, they see average. I myself, I was bullied a lot. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just stating it like it is. I was bullied a lot in school, and I saw a lot of people being bullied. So having a character like Light be so well developed, as like that character like me, he just comes off as really, really like a surrogate character. Like anyone who's been bullied can agree with me on that. You put yourself in Light's shoes. You feel every pain you have with him, and it just comes off as he's a good character. I'm not one review actually half-assed and said he was a flat-out Gary Stu. No, he's not a Gary Stu. He is far from it. If anything, his uncle's closer to Gary Stu, and he still has his flaws. But Light just comes off as a really, really like an average Joe that had the short end of the stick, and how he grows from the beginning to the end is not a masterpiece. I mean, the third story kind of meandered a little bit in the middle, but it was good enough that I really, Arya, stupid puppy, say hi, Arya. Now go away, Arya. No. Where was I? Oh yeah. He does come off as a very relatable character. Crystal, Mama Bear. That's really all I have to say about it. She doesn't differ too much from her canon personality. She still has like a really Mama Bear's attitude about her, and she has the temper problem. I haven't played Assault in a while, and I haven't played Command in a while, so I can't remember her exact personality. But she does. I know she does have a temper. I know she has a really, really bad temper. And so how he grows with her, especially since the third story is more about developing Crystal better than Light. She kind of comes off as somewhat of a flat character in the first story, but she does grow on you as the story nears the end, and she falls for Light, and so you get that like, I really like her now sort of feel. But it's like, was it too late to try and fix her? And I'm happy that as she developed from the cruise ship crushing to the end of the first story, that she kind of got better and better after that. His friends, Nat, Alex, and Chris. Nat is hilarious. They're basically those three friends that like every bully victim has. It's like they're the ones that, oh, we'll stick up for you no matter what. And Nat's like the hilarious guy. Chris is like the tech-savvy, serious guy, and Alex is like money, money. Oh wait, that's Nat. I never really found out what Nat. Here's the thing. I like Chris's character. He's like the whole tech-savvy, sane man, and Nat is like the eccentric d-bag who's like, oh, I say all these things sarcastically, bulby. But I never really got a feel for Alex's character. It's just honestly just me. I never really figured out his character. I'm not saying he's a bad character. Just I never really figured out what he is. Maybe he's like the straight man to Nat's funny guy chick. That's the only thing I can think of. Alistair. He's the closest thing to a Gary Stu in the story, and he's not a Gary Stu. He comes off as like very eccentric, very well. He's a rich archaeologist. He's like, oh, I've been there. I know Shingu Miyamoto. And then he shows a scene with him and Shingu meeting. I thought that was a nice touch. He does have his moments like, it's like, being stressed. But he does come off as flat at certain points. But he's an overall decent character. He's not a major character, so I can't really black on him too much. Alex's aunt. I can't really talk about Lindsay either. The villain, Krieg, generic villain. I can't really say too much about it. He's like, it's like I just dream of world domination. It's just he's generic. Blitz, the true villain of the whole trilogy. When I first saw him, I thought, oh, he's nothing more than a kind of a bland monster-esque character. So it was like, okay, I'm happy he's dead, because at least he was a step up from Krieg. It's just, he was just as bland as him. And then the third story came along. I liked his purpose and characterization in the third story. The whole manipulation, hiding in Light's video game was a clever move. I have never seen that before in a story. The fact that he's doing all these evil purposes, all these dark and twist and torture that he's playing for 10 years, all so we can find out that he wants to find what his purpose is like. He feels some part of himself is empty and incomplete, and so he's doing all these things just to figure out what the hell, what am I supposed to do? I know I'm supposed to do something, but I don't know what. What is my purpose? And it's like, it's way better than what he was depicted in the first story. And I thought that was a very good and logical step up. And how they built, and how he was built up in the third story was amazing. Kidnapping, like Crystal's kid, manipulating everything. The only thing he wasn't expecting was, I'm guessing the character named Class. I'm gonna guess he's Father Time, or Clockwork, or some kind of interdimensional time character to get involved. That's the only thing he really didn't count on. That he was gonna get divine. He was gonna get the gods to piss him off. And the fight between Light and Blitz was really what I was. As soon as the kids were kidnapped, I was like, oh, it is on. I really liked that part. Saber and her Crystal's parents. I can't really say much about them because Saber, they're flat. Saber's more a flat character who doesn't really have a defining character. He's like, okay, he's okay for what he does. He's supposed to. It's like, oh, I'm taking the side up. I hate Light. It's like, but I'll respect him because he married my sister-in-law, sort of, kind of. The parents, I have nothing on them. They're kind of like Saber. They're there for their purpose and really nothing more. Leonidas from the third story. I was kind of happy in his first story how he was portrayed as like the over the top captain who tries too serious to be who's trying to be too cool, but like not serious enough to he's like completely over the top. I like the balance and how he develops in the third story. It's not bad. I honestly wish it could have been done more with him. I can't really say more about him because I don't really get enough to get an accurate feel for his character. Finally, Light's father. I know he doesn't really show up, but it worth mentioning. In the third story, there's this organization called POR, Paranormal Observation something Recovery. I forgot what the U stands for. And Light's father is actually is the CEO. He's like the head honcho of that. It's like, and it kind of makes me wonder why the author picked him out of all the characters, because it made more sense for personally. It made more sense for Leonidas to be the character, or better yet, just throw Shingu Miyamoto just for lols. But this is more a question for the author. So why'd you pick Light's father? I mean, I understand reading back because to review the story, I had to go back like fourth time and read it because I really liked the story. And I saw all the signs, like, okay, he knew much more than he does, but I still wonder, why was he chosen out of all the characters to be the CEO? Why was he chosen to be the head honcho? Another little tidbit at the end is I really like the whole meta sort of thing at the end, because halfway through the story, the Father Time, I'm just gonna call him Father Time because his name is Klaus, but I know his father. I'm pretty sure it's Father Time. Gives him 3 books. And at the end, Tim, Light's father, grabs one of the books that's actually titled Only a Girl Out of This World, which is the title of the first story. So I like that really meta sort of ending. It's like, it's a pretty cool concept. I don't really have more to say about that. Grammar. There's a lot of grammar issues. If you're a grammar Nazi, I would not recommend this story. Yeah, spoilers for recommendation. I would recommend this trilogy. I'll get more into detail why later. I really like this story, but it's just there's so many grammar errors. First off, in the third story, I know there's 2 types of ways. I know in real life there's 2 types of ways to spell Marcus: Marcus, and then Markus. And for some reason, throughout the third story, every time they mention Marcus, he always seems to switch the lettering and make it Marcus with a C and Marcus with a K. It's just really confusing, and that's just one example. There's a lot of grammar issues. But I can't. But it's not bad enough that it's more that it does clear up a lot in the third story. So I can't really take it, and it's not really, as far as I remember, it's not really that there in the second story, which tidbit Lancet Storm put Honeymoon Madness as a complaint story, just off the record sort of thing. But I can't really complain anymore about that. Pacing and imagery. The pacing's fine. I have no problems with the pacing of all 3 stories. All of them are paced very, very well. Again, I just wish she could have done a little more something with the subplot between Light, Crystal, and Fox. But for what it is, it's paced fine. And I can't really argue about how it's paced because there's really nothing wrong with the pacing. Everything's built up. The knight shows up. And I thought, okay, how do you establish this other character right after you killed the bad guy? And, establish it's like, I'm with the whole Blood Knight, with the whole, he has a purpose thing, and he's trying to fulfill that purpose. It's like, okay, at least, made me at least, and someone entered, and then Blitzkrieg shows up. It's like, okay, that makes sense. And how his explanation, and he found his purpose. It's the imagery I kind of have a problem with, because for some odd reason, the first story, and the first story most of all, he doesn't really describe what any of the characters look like. I mean, I guess that sort of fits Light, because he's supposed to be like an Avatar type of character. You're supposed to put yourself in his shoes. But the fact that the author doesn't describe any of his parents, he doesn't describe Alistair. He doesn't describe any of his friends. He doesn't really describe any of the major or minor characters that show up more than once. It's like, it just feels really, really weird. The second and third story, he does at least try and build any new characters that are introduced to describe them. But the fact of the matter, he doesn't describe Light, he doesn't describe Nat, he doesn't describe Alex, he doesn't describe any of the characters that are already in the first story. And that just really, really off. I just find that really weird. And I really wish he goes back and just, at least tells us what the characters look like, something. Anything besides hair color. Connection to genre and emotional investment. First story, adventure and romance. It's a good. It fits the genres of both adventure and romance just fine. The second story, humor and romance. Maybe with the romance. Maybe. Humor. There is a lot of humorous stories, especially with Nat's interact with the whole trying to kill himself, commit suicide over trying to take a picture of Crystal's breasts. And then again, he can just go online, Photoshop a picture of her naked. I just like, here you go! $100,000! Ah! But no, he doesn't roll like that. Call it Photoshop, people. Third story, adventure and romance. It does fit. I thought it handled the romance in the third story more than the first story because of the whole unique situation with the love triangle. So, I can't really say anything. Emotional investment. The first story, you kind of get invested in it, emotionally invested, once they reach the end. But up until that, it's kind of average. You don't really get I guess the best point where most people, would get invested would be the Ferris wheel scene in, I think, chapter 6 or 7 of the first story. I'm guessing. I can't remember which chapter is which. The second story, you only really get invested in that for Nat's shenanigans. That's pretty much it. The third story, you get can't really say. It doesn't really get invested until after Serenia comes out, or either Serenia comes to play and they visit there, or Fox comes out and the whole Phantom Memories and everything kicks off after that. But it's just, you have to. I like you can invest, but it's just kind of selective. Like, you have to wait until a certain point to start invested in all three stories. It's just, it won't be for everyone, especially grammar Nazis. Again, all the grammar issues they're gonna go. In terms now for the final score. Sorry, I'm just clicking on this. Should have. All right. Yep. Oh, come on. Yep. Bloop. This is awkward. Nope. You're watching me figure out how to use that. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Get off of me.
Plot 9. Again, could have done at least a little something more with the subplot. Character development. I really like the character development. 10 out of 10. Grammar, lots of grammar issues. 6 out of 10. Pacing and imagery. I'm fine with the pacing. It's just more the rank of 7 out of 10 is more for the imagery over not knowing what the main characters look like. And connection, genre, and emotional investment. The fact that you have to wait a long time in the first story, and only in like certain small part, and only like couple certain parts in the second story, you have to wait. I mean, I'm okay with the emotional investment starting when he meets his parents, because at least that makes sense with the whole parenting thing. It's like, oh, okay, it's supposed to be calm before the storm, and everything. So, and I really got emotionally invested. Once at the end of the third story, it's like, okay, what's going to happen now? at the second story. So I really liked it, and I give that an 8 out of 10. And so overall, add all of it up, you get a 4 out of 5. Which is an A plus or S minus, depending on how you look at it. And it does have a lot. It does have a lot of fun. Favorite parts and recommendations. Obviously, recommend it. I would. I really, really would, if only for how well he develops the main character. And a bunch of other small, intricate, funny stuff and cute stuff that you really like. Favorite part. Since it's a trilogy, I thought I mentioned one part from each story. First part. The part where I have brain fart. I don't really. Do I have a favorite part from the first story? I know I had one. Oh, right, because I was almost gonna suggest when Crystal actually went on Light's computer and looked up herself and found erotic pictures. I thought that was hilarious, but that's not my favorite part. My favorite part in the first story would have to be the fight scene between Crystal and a possessed Light on the cruise ship, because I thought that was so emotional, and I actually kind of cried a little bit when it's like she loves him, and because that was that point she loves him back and everything, and you just get that true emotion that she's willing to fight for Light and everything. Honeymoon Madness. The hilarious moment near the end when, after Chris, the tech-savvy guy, kind of put these bugs around the room trying to get a picture of Crystal naked, and all of them were getting thwarted. Crystal and Light were about to make Snooki when all of a sudden, Nat busts down the door, holding a loaf of bread. I'm not making this up, this actually happens. Walks up to a wall where one of the bugs is, and starts swatting it. It's like, that's just so ridiculous and so insane. It's like, I couldn't help but laugh the first time. I think that's like the only part in the story that I read, if I go back and read it, that I actually do laugh. And the final part, the fight between I actually have two for the third story. First off, Light's death, which I thought, while it's the moment of it kind of erupts because the build up to it is like, it could have been no better. Him dying and everything that happened before it was expertly well done. I actually cried reading that story. It's like, no Light, and I was like, oh, let's build up everything. Everything was built up really wonderful to the fight after that. The second part, not really the fight itself, but sorry. But the second part would have to be the scene between Crystal and a Earth Prime Light, because in that story, in order for Crystal to revive Light, she had to go kill two different versions. She had to kill the Emissary, which was the original Light before he was born, and the Light from Earth Prime, which is what would happen if Crystal never met Light. And I thought that whole scene, everything from him going to the bank, Light's biggest bully showing up, robbing the place, Light killing him, which I thought was great vindication, a great callback to the first story, and Light sacrificing himself so that way Crystal's version of Light can come back to life. I thought that was a really emotional scene that was really well written and just really passionate and really emotional. And I love that scene. I love that scene because of how well it was written. And that's it. Final thoughts for the story. I don't really have everything that I mentioned for the final thoughts was I mentioned throughout the story. I still really wish he could have done more with the subplot. That's really my only. Well, that and the grammar. Those two are my only real big problems with these stories. I really wish he could have done more with that story. I really honestly wish, because there was so much potential, so much mileage you could have done out of it. You could have made a 4-part story in just the first, and that third story out of the 4th. If you did that, just that one subplot, I wouldn't have been glad. I would have praised him for that. So that's my review on. Fun little fact. Every time when I read the story, I always seem to subconsciously call it Only a Girl Out of This World. It fits the theme. It fits the theme of the story well. That's just me goofing up. So thoughts, criticisms, concerns. If you have an opinion on this, please. I expect honest criticism, honest constructive. How I can improve this channel. How I can improve this. Since this episode, I'm guessing 6. I might as well mention the other 3 stories. Well, 2 stories that never mind. I'll do that next episode. All I know is next episode is going to be kind of a short story. I'm going to be reviewing a Big O story. I'll get more into detail on that when I get there. And I hope you stay tuned and please follow me. I really appreciate it. Think of the dog. Think of the dog that I passed by. She needs the love. She needs it. And this is Dark777. And